Hello and welcome to another episode of the Defining the Dash podcast. My name is Mark Mullins. I'm joined today by my friend, Brother Chad Clifton.
Hello, everybody.
Brother Chad, good to have you back this week.
Yes, sir. Good to be back.
All right, good to have you. We have been on our diet. I don't know if I've lost any poundage, but I feel like I am more nutritious.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's half of it, right?
Feeding the spiritual man.
Feeding the spiritual man. And we have been talking, as our listeners will know, and you and I know, that we've been talking about the fruits of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22 tells us that love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, and faith, and to be continued to the next verse, are all fruits of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And last week, our listeners will remember, I know you and I remember, that we were talking about gentleness. And today we are going to skip down to this fruit of the Spirit that is called goodness.
Oh, yes. Sounds tasty.
Does it sound good to you?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll go for some goodness.
Let's see if this is any good. Brother Chad, what do you think about goodness? Any thoughts on goodness?
Goodness. When I looked this up today, of course, I've been going with Webster and you've been going with Mr. Clark.
Uh-huh.
And both have had some great things to say. But Mr. Webster said goodness was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It was virtue. And I really like this, but it said it was the best part.
Okay. Yep.
So the best part, I really like that. And, just like with gentleness only appeared in the a Bible listed 4 times in that way,
Mm-hmm.
goodness appears 48 times in the Bible.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's a good thing.
And,
of
course, there's the familiar scripture of Psalm 23:6 that said, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever."
Mm-hmm.
And, there's only going to be goodness if it comes from God.
Right. Absolutely.
And so you can't have goodness without having that close relationship with God.
Right.
And we can't be good people. And I don't think we can really receive good things without having that relationship with God.
Right. You was talking about good, and an example here that I have looking at this definition in front of me, it talks about goodness, and just what you just said is stated being good, the physical qualities which constitute value, excellence, or perfection, as in the goodness of timber or the goodness of a soil. And I read through here, and you're talking about goodness. A lot of times it doesn't take too much experience in life to look at something to know whether it's good or bad.
Uh-huh.
And the example I want to give on that is, we somebody shooting at me. No, I'm just kidding. We're just moving the microphone. But
I wasn't for sure if this was picking you up where you're not straight in front of it.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's good. That's a good thing, right? Goodness. But anyway, I'm thinking about my, this is October, so I'm getting ready to do my fall till in my garden, and I try to till in the fall, and so it's better in spring. And I remember, Brother Chad, when we moved into our house and our little garden spot we have, that I remember the first till that we did on that, and I didn't have a plow. I had this little push tiller, and our garden area is probably a 50 by 30 or 60 by 30 at the time. It was maybe a little smaller. But I remember tilling into that hard dirt, man. And I don't know if it had been worked as a garden ever. I think back in the day it was maybe a part of a horse lot or something. And so, man, I remember tilling that up, and it took multiple passes to get to where it was workable. But I remember coming to the house and looking out the window and trying to convince my wife about how beautiful that dirt was. And it was just good dirt. Wasn't a lot of rock out in there. Found a couple of horseshoes, from back in the day, probably. It's kind of cool. But I think my wife was she didn't get onto me, but, she probably could have, because I think I described the dirt as being beautiful probably 10 times. And I may have only told her once that day that she was beautiful. So, that little awkward, marital relationship.
Baby, you're prettier than dirt.
Exactly. But man, I remember looking at that, brother, and I've seen I've had some gardens in my time. I've seen different gardens and stuff, and some dirt and some gardens are just better than others.
Right.
There's some places I've seen
Rich,
and
fertile soil. Yeah.
and mom and dad on to the right, if you pull into their property over to the right, those bean racks on the right side of the property. In that, up until the last couple of years when I was able to till it for them, but in that there was a lot of rocky soil, and so it wouldn't take a very good gardener to compare those two soil types and realize that one of them is good,
right,
and the other one's just not as good,
right.
And so when the Bible talks about goodness, the state of being good, there are qualities that constitute goodness, and those qualities that constitute goodness also constitute value, excellence, and perfection.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And just like when you're first tilling that, especially if you're using like just a hand push rotary tiller,
Mm-hmm.
when you're first breaking that ground and you're something ain't been tilled before and everything, man, it takes its toll on you.
Oh yeah, for a few days.
And if you're around something that's not good, it's going to take a toll on you.
Oh yeah, for a few weeks.
Yeah, or maybe longer. Maybe longer. Yeah, and so you're going to feel it. Your spiritual man is going to feel it.
Yeah.
And so it's a great thing to be around. Just we laugh and we talk a lot and we have good fellowship, and man, what a gift that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine being in company, so to speak, of or in fellowship with people that I can't trust to not try to steal from me while I'm around them, or not try to bring in something on me that I shouldn't be around, or you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
I'm glad that God has surrounded me with good people.
Yep.
And allowed me to know good people and have them in my life and bring my children up around good people.
Yep. You're talking about goodness and good people. It's interesting. Adam Clark defines it as a perpetual desire and a sincere study, not only to abstain from every appearance of evil, but to do good to the bodies and soul of men to the utmost of our ability.
Yeah. And that perpetual,
yeah,
that means ongoing,
yes.
Right? Like
yes.
Perpetual motion, ongoing.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of like you're ever striving.
Yes.
Ever striving to be good, ever striving to do good.
Yeah.
And so, it's not something that you try one time and you achieve it and then never have to work at it again.
Right.
But it's a continual work. And just like we always said, love was an action word. Being good is an action word.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's an ongoing, it's a perpetual thing, but it's also, he says, that it's a perpetual or ongoing desire to do good,
mm-hmm.
and it's also a study.
Hmm.
It's interesting when I see the study word, because unfortunately a lot of us know about studying for tests, right? For math tests, whatever, and it's a desire. I want to do good for other people,
right?
But it's also a study, as in, how can I do good to those around me, or how can I better do good to those around me,
right?
Purposefully studying. I think about that, and I think about work, and when somebody comes in, I want to do them good, because that's kind of where business comes from.
Sure.
People talk about you, they'll come back, and unless they got good insurance, then you don't fix them on the front end, so they'll come back. No, I'm just kidding. They ain't got nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. Just totally kidding everybody. But I have a desire. I want to serve people.
Right.
But when it comes to working in the medical field, anyway, those that are the most successful, they never really feel that they've actually arrived.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's always something more
learning.
that they can learn, and
Yes,
sometimes it's learning about diagnosis and how to treat things, and sometimes it's learning about how to approach people and how to talk about different topics.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? But it's a study. It's something that you do on purpose. And so, but when I think about this goodness, man, want to do good to other people. But then I got to ask myself this question: is how long has it been since I've sat in my chair in the living room and thought about a new way or a better way to better serve my neighbor?
Well,
It's been a while for me.
I don't know.
Yeah,
If
I don't know
I've
if I ever
ever
have
done that.
actually,
Yeah,
but
that's what. Yeah,
it's a study. It's a study of doing good, not
yeah,
just doing good and wanting to do good, but thinking about how can I do more good.
yeah. And that's sad to think about, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever just thought about how can I better serve those around me.
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure in some way or another, but
sure.
just now that we're putting ourselves on the spot,
Yep.
you know,
Ha! Take that.
yeah. uh, and
Oh
you was
yeah.
talking about that study. My brother is he's got multiple degrees under his
Yes.
belt.
Very very smart guy.
And don't remember now how many it is. It's 3, 4, maybe more. I'm not sure. And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna sign up for this class. I'm gonna sign up for that class. I'm gonna do." And I'm like, "Man, listen, you work literally. I mean, he goes in early in the mornings, he gets home late at night, and then he's still got college work he's got to do when he gets home, and,
Mm-hmm.
and he's and he's constantly like his life is just tied up and busy all the time." And I'm like, "Why? When are you going to stop?
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, when are you going to reach that point where you're like, I've arrived?" And he's like, "I'm not."
Right.
He said, I'm happy being a career student.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I don't plan on stopping. I'm going to keep there's going to be something new I can learn. There's going to be something new I can take.
Right.
I mean, he's got business degrees. He's got like accounting degree, or I guess like bookkeeping or accounting degree type things.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked some in the medical aspects of things. He's and I think maybe now working in cybersecurity and that type of things. And
Mm-hmm.
he's worked in computer software and all these. He's went into all these different areas, and I'm like, when do you think you're going to just slow it down? And he's like, I'm not.
Right. Just so much to learn.
There's just so much to learn.
Yeah.
Why would I ever slow it down? And I'm like, and if we think of that, if we have that same attitude on, how can we better help our fellow man?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe that'll be contagious.
That might be.
And then maybe someone else will be like, what if I'm doing what he's doing,
Right.
and maybe that'll spread some goodness around.
That'd be good, man. But it's interesting too that Adam says at the last part of his comment here that this gentleness that we do to, or I'm sorry, this goodness that we do to the bodies and the souls of men at the utmost of our ability, the very best of our ability, says that all of this must spring from a good heart,
Yeah.
a heart that is purified by the Spirit of God, and then the tree that is being made good, the fruit must be good also.
Yes.
And I thought that's really interesting. There's a certain degree of goodness, I think, from a human to another human just because of care, almost like, if I had a dog or a cat. I don't have one. My 2 cats got ran over, so so I don't have any cats. But if I did,
It wasn't a
man,
John Deere.
no. And so, but if I did, I would care about the cat, and we did care about the cat. When we had him, that we would make sure he got something to eat, and something to drink, some milk, sneak out some milk every once in a while. I don't know if it's good for it or not, but we did it. And even the neighborhood dog that used to come around, I guess before it got killed, I don't know where the dog is. We ain't seen him in a few months, but we got dog treats because it's just a good thing to do. So
Right.
the general goodness. But there's probably a certain degree of goodness that a human has towards other humans or even animals, most humans. But it's the goodness here is a whole nother level.
Right.
A sense of goodness that isn't selfish. And it doesn't really matter if Fido comes and lets you scratch him behind the ears or not. You know what I mean? Or it doesn't really matter if your neighbor brings you over, some SpaghettiOs or not.
Right.
It's just because you have been saved and God has done a work in your heart and has made you a good creature. And as a good creature, if you will, in Christ, then you produce this good fruit.
Yes.
because it's just who you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not really wishing any ill against anybody. You know, you're happy if your neighbor excels in business. You're happy if your neighbor gets a new lawnmower. You're happy, you know, if your neighbor you're all right if your neighbor gets a faster bass boat than what you got. You know, it's just your approach to other people, you know, that is just wanting to see them do good, and you yourself just want to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
And we need more goodness.
Yeah.
Just like we need more gentleness, we need more love and joy in this world. We need more goodness and good people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, there's people, Brother Chad. I'll say this, and really I'm out of notes, so so we'll probably weed this one down. But you know, there's some people I know, you know, that live around here, and a common theme that I hear about them, if their name comes up in conversation, is that that's a good woman.
Oh yeah.
Or that's a good man.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people in the community don't refer to you as being a good man or a good woman unless they have seen something good come out of you.
Yeah.
And so I guess my recommendation was, as I'm looking down through this Christian diet, the great recommendation to myself and to, you know, to our listeners is, let's try to find a way to desire and study to do good to the bodies and the souls of men to the best of our ability.
Yeah. And you know, what would be a greater epitaph, so to speak, on your tombstone? He was loved by all,
Mm-hmm.
or he loved all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would hope mine would say he loved all.
Yeah, he loved all. Yep.
You know, and that would cover all these fruits, really.
Absolutely.
He loved it. If you can truly love everybody.
Yep.
And you know, like you said, there's been a lot of good people that people would say, you know, he loved everybody.
Absolutely.
He loved everybody. He never met a stranger. He never met, you know, he loved everybody. Would give you the shirt off his back.
Yep.
You know, and I would hope that's what I would want people to be able to say about me.
Yep.
Is he loved everybody.
Absolutely.
And he treated everybody kind. And
yes.
And boy, that's how we can truly make it count, folks. Is if we can help one another
Mm-hmm.
to adapt these fruits here, and if we can help each other obtain these fruits of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, what an improvement that would make in our lives and in our communities and in our churches.
Yes.
It would really make a difference.
Yes.
And like you said, if we're going to go ahead and wind this one down here, but I want to say again, thank you all for joining us. Again, like and subscribe if you would. And if there's any comments you have of anything different we can do on the podcast, or any anything different, or any topics that you'd like to hear us discuss, if there's any if there's any meetings coming up that we could, sometimes we try to set up a booth to meet some of y'all and maybe get some interviews with some of our holiness heroes. We've not been able to do an interview in a while, and we've got some that we're trying to get scheduled to get those back on here. I know everybody enjoys hearing some of the testimonies of some of our holiness heroes, and we've got some of those that we're getting scheduled. And so if there's anybody particular that you would like to hear us interview, reach out to us maybe through email at definingthedash@yahoo.com,
Mm-hmm.
Or anything like that. We'd love to hear from you and love to share that information, and try to respond to you as quick as we can.
Mm-hmm.
I try to check those emails about every day, and maybe a couple times a day, and things. But you can comment on our YouTube videos, and we'll try to reply to you that way as well. Or if you on the podcast, if you comment on there and it notifies me, then we'll try to reply to you on there. So. And then again on Instagram as well, we do have the Instagram page, defining_the_dash, and we'll try to, if you message us on there, we'll try to reply to you there.
Absolutely. And, all right. Well, we'll catch you guys on the like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you here again next week.
All right. God bless you.
See ya.
When I win this war, I've got a church